We're confident that our strategy is perfectly aligned with the growth opportunities in Africa. We're building a network of international standard warehouse parks. And in itself, that doesn't seem hugely impressive, but the reality is a warehouse park that enables trade and growth and is a platform for people to do business. So we see multinationals coming into our parks. We see SMEs that can't afford to raise capital or very expensive capital coming into our parks. And the reality is being in the provision of providing that basic infrastructure that enables businesses to trade in a safe environment where the power is consistent, where the environment's a pleasant environment to work in, is fundamental to the growth of Africa.
Right. I just want to understand, how has the uptake for this particular solutions that you're bringing to Africa has been? What is the rate of demand for this?
So currently we can't keep up with demand. So the reality is we built the first park in Ghana. Right. We're now on phase 5 in Ghana. So each park as a template is 500,000 square meters. To put that into some context, that's about 60 football pitches in size. And then we build warehousing to meet demand. Ghana, for example, is now finishing off building phase 5 of the development. It opened in 2016 and we're on to phase 5. We're under construction in Abidjan, we're under construction in Lagos, we're under construction in Maputo, Mozambique. So we see the network beginning to create more synergies with what the requirements are from Africa. And it's very interesting, if you look at one of the great topics here is about regional trade. And the reality is that what we're doing is directly aligned with the growth of regional trade. So you have customers in Ghana who are going to take space in Abidjan, in Lagos, and be able to distribute goods across the whole of ECOWAS. Likewise, our projects in East Africa, we're focused on Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, and we'll have the same network capability where you can move goods from one country to another country seamlessly from the same quality warehousing.
One of the biggest constraint to, of course, warehousing and free packs in countries, different countries, and of course luring in investment has been on the back of the policies in the countries, but also on the back of the production rate. How much electricity do you need and how affordable is it? For your case here, however, how affordable are these warehouses and how are we looking to actually make it even more seamless to trade between two countries, given of course, the trade policies that are in place?
So I think the cross-border trade is improving. There's a lot still to be done in taking the bureaucracy out of the process, but it is definitely improving. From our perspective, we're the top end of the market for warehousing, but you get what you pay for. There is a dearth of quality warehousing that actually has consistent power, is a safe environment, and is an enabler of your business to be able to operate. So many businesses we speak to in Africa say, we actually only operate 3 days a week because for 2 days a week the power is off or there's a security issue or whatever. We're just building these enclaves that enable you come and get on with business. From the perspective of ease of doing business, I think there's two markets for that. One is multinationals. We make it much easier for a multinational to come into Africa and do business. And whether it be for processing, manufacturing, storage, or distribution, the reality is if they can come into a warehouse that is the same quality as they have all around the world in their other operations, it just makes the decision process easier for them to come into the African marketplace.
But Geoffrey, if you're speaking about SMEs and you're talking about a warehouse that is over 10 football pitches, how affordable is it?
No. So our warehouse units start from 500 square meters, which is really very small. Right. And that's aligned with our SME program. So we're very clear that a huge part of the growth in African GDP is going to be driven by the SME sector. So we see more than 50% of our market is supporting SMEs. So we've packaged together a really strong SME incentive program where you don't need a balance sheet, you don't need financial guarantees, you don't need to pay 3 years rent in advance. You pay 3 months deposit, sign a lease, and we give you the keys and you move in. And then you're up and operating in world-class infrastructure that we've seen already is transformational to the growth of SMEs. And SMEs really struggle with raising capital. And raising capital for something that's non-core, like a warehouse, cost them ridiculous interest rates. So the ability to just come in on easy terms into a proper warehouse to run an SME's business is going to be transformational across the continent.
How do you see the signing of the intra-African trade, of course, on the back of the Africa Free Continental Trade Area supporting your cause?
So we think we're aligned with all these macro trends. So with the Africa free trade, and I think the signature process is moving very nicely. Right. The reality is the execution and the implementation is what the real challenge is about actually getting everybody to actually operate the free trade agreements. We also think that globally, more and more manufacturers are looking at localized manufacturing. So less of build 5 million units in China and ship them all around the world, more of build 100,000 units in market, understand the market dynamics, understand the culture. And that requires warehousing and warehouse premises. And then I've just come from the e-commerce platform here. And the reality is we believe e-commerce is going to grow exponentially across the continent. It's on a very low base currently, but it has a massive potential in Africa. And interestingly, when you run the logistics analysis, e-commerce requires 4 times as much warehouse in market than the traditional logistics model. So we think on all these areas, what we're doing is aligned with the growth strategies in Africa. And if you have a long-term sustainable 20-year vision of where you want to be, this is really a great position to be investing in.